When does a spotted coat become a story of survival? The moment Gadsby's paws touched the cold shelter floor, his unique black and white pattern told a tale no one had bothered to read. Like ink spilled across paper, scattered white spots decorated his midnight fur, a natural work of art that should have made him unforgettable. But in a place where hundreds of faces blur into one desperate chorus, even beauty becomes invisible. He sat in cage number 47, watching the world through metal bars, his golden eyes holding a question. Would anyone ever see past the pattern and notice the soul underneath? Gadsby wasn't born in that shelter, but he might as well have been. Found wandering the industrial district after dark, fur matted and body thin, he carried the weight of abandonment like a second skin. The intake volunteers noted his distinctive markings, large white patches splashed asymmetrically across his black coat, as if someone had started painting and forgotten to finish. They photographed him, cataloged him, and placed him in a kennel with a small card that read, "Gadsby, adult male, friendly, seeking home." Days turned into weeks. People walked by, their eyes scanning rows of hopeful faces. Some stopped at the kittens, their tiny mews impossible to resist. Others paused at the sleek, solid-colored cats, who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. But Gadsby? His spots, which should have made him stand out, somehow made him fade into the background. Too unusual for those seeking simplicity, too quiet for those wanting instant affection. He pressed his face against the bars each time footsteps approached, then retreated to the corner when they passed without pause. The shelter staff grew fond of him. During feeding time, Gadsby would greet them with a soft chirp, a sound somewhere between a meow and a question mark. He'd rub his spotted face against their hands, purring with an intensity that vibrated through their fingers. "He's one of the good ones," they'd say to each other, confused why nobody wanted him. "Someone will see it eventually." But eventually felt like a destination that kept moving further away. Then came the morning that changed everything. If you're loving Gadsby's journey so far, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next proves that the right person changes everything. And trust me, you'll want to see this transformation. Sarah hadn't planned to visit the shelter that Saturday. She'd been scrolling through adoption posts online, half-heartedly browsing, when a poorly lit photo caught her eye. A black cat with white spots, sitting upright, staring directly into the camera with an expression that seemed to say, "I've been waiting for you." Something about that gaze, direct, knowing, almost challenging, made her pause. She saved the image, closed her laptop, grabbed her keys, and drove to the shelter before she could talk herself out of it. When she reached cage 47, Gadsby was sleeping, curled into a tight ball with his tail covering his face. The white spots on his back rose and fell with each breath, creating a mesmerizing pattern of movement. Sarah knelt down, waiting. A volunteer appeared beside her. "That's Gadsby. Been here almost 4 months. Sweetest boy you'll ever meet. But people just walk past him." 4 months? Sarah's voice carried disbelief. "Why?" The volunteer shrugged. "Honestly, we don't know. Some cats just get overlooked." Sarah tapped gently on the cage door. Gatsby's ear twitched. Then, slowly, he uncurled himself, stretched with the deliberate grace only cats possess, and walked to the front. He sat down directly in front of Sarah, those golden eyes meeting hers with startling intensity. No meowing, no pawing at the bars, just eye contact that felt like a conversation. "Can I meet him?" Sarah asked. In the small meeting room, Gatsby stepped out of his carrier with cautious dignity. He surveyed the space, the worn couch, the scattered toys, the strangers sitting cross-legged on the floor. Sarah didn't reach for him. She simply sat, giving him space to decide. For 30 seconds, Gatsby stood frozen, calculating his next move. Then, with a decision that seemed to surprise even himself, he walked straight into Sarah's lap, circled once, twice, and settled down with a rumbling purr that filled the entire room. "I think he's chosen you," the volunteer whispered from the doorway. Sarah ran her fingers along Gatsby's spotted coat, feeling the vibration of contentment beneath her palm. "No," she said softly, her eyes glistening. "I think I've chosen him." The adoption paperwork took 20 minutes. The car ride home took 15, but the moment Gatsby stepped into Sarah's apartment, 4 months of waiting dissolved into pure presence. He explored every corner with cautious curiosity, under the bed, behind the couch, inside the closet. Then, satisfied with his inspection, he jumped onto the couch, kneaded the cushion exactly 3 times, and claimed his spot as if he'd always lived there. The first night was quiet. Sarah worried he might hide, might need days to adjust. Instead, Gatsby appeared at her bedroom door around midnight, jumped onto the bed, and curled up against her side. His purr became her lullaby, his warmth a promise. You're not alone anymore. Neither am I. Days revealed his personality in layers. Gatsby loved routine. Breakfast at 7 a.m. sharp, followed by a sunbeam nap on the windowsill. He'd chirp meow when Sarah came home from work, greeting her at the door like they'd been separated for years instead of hours. His favorite toy? A simple feather wand that he'd chase with the focus of a predator, his spotted coat becoming a blur of motion. And every evening, without fail, he'd claim his spot on her lap, purring so loudly the neighbors could probably hear. But the most profound change wasn't in Gatsby, it was in Sarah. The apartment that once felt too quiet now buzzed with life. The couch that seemed too big for one person became perfectly sized for 2. The mornings that dragged now started with purpose, with a little spotted face demanding breakfast and affection in equal measure. One afternoon, Sarah posted a photo of Gatsby stretched across her laptop keyboard, his white spotted paws covering the keys. The caption read, "They said nobody wanted him. Turns out, he was just waiting for me." The post went viral. Thousands shared stories of shelter pets who'd waited months before finding their person. Sarah read every comment, Gatsby purring on her lap, blissfully unaware. She thought about Cage 47, about the 4 months he'd spent watching the world pass by. And she thought about the invisible thread that had pulled her to that poorly lit photo. Gatsby wasn't overlooked because something was wrong. He was waiting for someone who'd see past the unusual pattern, past the too different label, waiting for someone who'd recognize that different doesn't mean less, it means more. So here's the real question. What if the perfect companion isn't the one everyone wants, but the one nobody else sees?